Many preparations need to be taken into consideration by the EQA before external quality assurance activities may commence and take hold. So the specific sequence of these preparations are also important due to the necessities of a systematic framework for success. These arrangements can occur in a few ways, but these regulations must include ideas or plans on how to collect information, communicate with the client, administer arrangements, and allocate resources. So we talk about information collection. It's a large part of your EQA role to ensure the proper collection of evidence and documentation regarding the entire assessment process, primarily of the assessors and their learners' performances, and all proper documentation that involve this process. So added to this should have information surrounding the standards of delivery of the qualification, the assessor's performances, the candidate's criteria. Information should also include relevant assessor and candidate needs and location of candidates and assessment locations. So this information should be evaluated, collated, and recorded in your EQA file at an essential location to enable access to information when required. The EQA should have all qualifications from staff to ensure competence and vocational expertise of assessors are checked. The range of learners should be noted before the EQA process, having awarding organisation registration numbers at hand. Communication. So you as an EQA must ensure that the methods of communication should be strong with both the IQA and the awarding body. So this will be via electronic or verbal communication, and if by telephone, then your conversation should be documented, so follow up. The EQA should also establish if the centre requires any reasonable adjustments and special considerations, which is all noted within your awarding organisation handbook. The EQA should also establish what form of learning took place. So for example, was it online learning? And does this limit the centre's ability to produce evidence? It's also important to establish links with the relevant management to gain support by the organisation, and EVs to action any points that need attention. Communication channels should also be set up so that EQA can acquire relevant, up-to-date information on individual candidate progress. This aspect is to ensure that the correct support is given throughout the assessment and quality assurance procedures, and this can be done via email, face-to-face, VLE, and telephone, or even actually postal correspondence if necessary. Now we're going to talk about administration arrangements. So records and systems should be monitored to ensure regulations, law, and awarding body specifications are followed to ensure security and confidentiality of information, but also to help to ensure that all aspects of the qualification are covered. Information must be completed in compliance to the statutory regulation of external qualifications, and that's in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Information covers the candidate information, the enrolment, registering and program, and the qualification information. Studies have shown that this is one of the areas in which many centres are weak, and I completely agree with this with my experience as an EQA, as these centres will consider that a simple task of filing or entries on a database are not as important. So centre administration should be checked by the EQA, must be transparent and open for different types of scrutiny. It's also recommended that the administrative obligations are clear, and streamlined administrators are not usually members of the assessor or the IQA team. So as an EQA, you should confirm the venue of each assessment beforehand, alongside times of each assessment and the schedule. The EQA may need electronic access to documentation if remote visits are taking place. Now, what about your resources? So as an EQA, you should have resources such as assessment records and documentation, and your assessment reports on hand. So if all records are electronic and paper backup is a good idea. So these resources will show the range of evidence, sampling activities, and for the EQA, IQA assessor, and the learner. So it's also important for the EQA that you follow the reporting processes to provide feedback to the assessors or to the IQAs, to the centres. EQAs also might have to supply your own resources to carry out the role. So for example, you might need to take your own computer or other device with internet access. You might need a telephone, landline, or a mobile phone. You might need access to appropriate transport to get there. You'll need copies of awarding organisation guidelines, qualification specifications, standards, whether this is a manual or if it's electronic. You need to obtain copies of schemes of work and lesson plans, briefcases, pens, paper and stationery, appropriate clothing and name badges, insurance such as professional indemnity or even a vehicle, and money for expenses. So when you're travelling, you might need bridge tolls might need to pay for meals and fuel.